Real quick, I want to do a fair use. Yahawah, Barakatah Yahawashi. Want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, BaHaSham, Rawchaa QaDash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, the elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners whose phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom, to you sisters, Yahawashi, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Aram Yahawah with the lesson.
Black men for decades. And if you think I'm lying, let's run the receipts. Let's stop sugarcoating it. The U.S. government has been using black women as a tool against black men for decades. And if you think I'm lying, let's run the receipts. Welfare in the 60s and 70s, they told black women, we'll help you feed your babies, only if the man isn't in the house. That's the man in the house rule. And that's a policy that directly ripped families apart. Then came the war on drugs. They flooded the black communities with crack cocaine. They locked the black men up on mandatory minimums and 3-strike laws. And who was left to struggle raising entire families alone? Black women. Meanwhile, they pushed out propaganda calling us strong and independent like that was empowering when it really was isolation. And they painted black men as lazy, dangerous deadbeats. Divide and conquer. That was the plan. They knew the black family was the backbone of our strength, so they made sure to break it. And the sad part, too many of us bought into the narrative. But it's time to break it. It's time to wake up. It's time to call it what it really is. Genocide by policy. They used us against our men. And the only way forward is for us to unlearn the lies and stand side by side again.
Yeah. So this is Psalms 119 and 95. It says, based on what she was saying at the end, it made me think about this verse right here, because she said, look, they put our women against us. And basically we are against our women and ourselves, right? Being the crack epidemic via through Bloods, Crips, GDs, Vice Lords fighting each other, killing each other, right? And all manner of different mechanisms where we come against ourselves, right? But it's all set up within the system, right? The wicked have waited for me to destroy me, right? And that's the first thing that came into my mind. So I had to come to the scripture because the Lord, because it goes back into where a man, when a man and a woman come together, they procreate, right? And it's a thing called what cultivate, right? You cultivate where you get culture, right? And you're supposed to raise and cultivate your seeds. So when the children is out of control, without having that hedge, the fatherhood, the kids are out of control. They're not growing up at like a plant that's been truly like groomed and cultivated, right? Yeah, so this is Genesis chapter 3, verse 14. It says, and Yahawah power said unto the serpent, because, right, which is the wicked, right? It says the wicked waited for me to destroy me, which is the self-proclaimed so-called white man, right? And that spirit, because there's reincarnation or regeneration, and it's biblical, it's in the scriptures, that same spirit is in the self-proclaimed white man today, right? And he's the serpent, he's the wicked. And it says, because thus has done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, right? Which meaning nations, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shall thus go, and thus shall thou eat all the days of thy life. Thus meaning what? Confusion, right? They're going to eat a lot of confusion, right? Which they're coming to their end now, right? Through the confusion, right? Because it's a confused thing to think you could come against the power. You're not in your right mind. If you can go against Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi. It says, and I will put enmity, right? See, between thee and the woman, which meaning what? Dealing with, when you go into Revelation, the woman is it's Israel, right? And between thy seed, right, his children, and her seed, right, her children that comes out from the woman, right? And a woman don't carry seeds, but she does, what's it called? She's like the ground. She incubates them, right? And when they're in the ground, things like that, that's when they're being cultivated, right? Being raised up, right? And it shall bruise thy head, right? Which, because Rome was the one with the deadly wound that was healed, right? Right? Bruise, deadly wound in the head, and it was healed and returned. And thou shalt bruise his heel, right? Right? And it says unto the woman, right? He said, right, going to they put our woman against us, right? He said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrows and thy conception, right? See, having the baby, being able to deal with it, and see, and Satan knows these type of things, and so this is where the sorrow in their conception and sorrow, thus shall bring forth children. Multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, right? And in sorrow, thus shall bring forth children. Talk about birth pains, but also what? The enemy's going to come again. It just said your seed should be against his seed. So what are they doing? Being that they have this disability to have this false science, they're above. They could have you take so many shots and things before the baby's even born. You got all this Down syndromes and these what is it called? Autistic children, and everybody saying it's because of these shots. So they're already coming against the children. Then when they're coming, and you're supposed to be cultivating, and there's supposed to be a father right, and a mother to cultivate it, to grow it up right, to bring in the right kind of culture. Instead, it brings forth black culture, right? Your children brings forth this black culture, this deaf culture, right? Gang banging, drug dealing culture, right? So you're gonna have sorrow bringing forth your children, right? And your kids are gonna die and get shot and killed, and you worry about if your kid's gonna go to jail for forever, things like that. These are these sorrows. It says, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee, right? And there's the answer to your problem. But Satan's he presented it to you as, what? A man's gonna rule over you? What? See that? That's in the man. Oh, you can't have that. But that's the natural order, right? Yeah, so this is 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2 says, now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things, and keep the ordinance, right? Going into the order, keeping the order or the ordinance, same thing as the order, as I delivered them to you, right? Coming from the Most High. It's the ordinance. But I would have you, right? If you don't know, let's just say it one more time. I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, which is Yahawashi, and the head of the woman is the man, and that's the natural order. But they told you different. See, a man shall rule over you. Oh my God, that's bad. We can't have that, right? You know, but that's the natural order. And the head of Hamashiach, which is Yahawashi, is the Most High, which is Yahawah, right? So this is Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 21. I'm gonna read it in the Amplified version because it's a little longer, and then I'm gonna jump to the KJV version, and then we're gonna look up the word noble. It says yet Jeremiah 2 and 21. Yet I had planted you, O house of Israel, as a choice vine, a completely faithful seed. See, and we're supposed to be faithful to who? To Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi. We're not to have any other gods before him, right? Right, and just know any gods at all, right? You know, so, but the Lord said that because we have sinned against him, he would send us out from our land and have us worship wood and stone, right? So now we're worshiping these other gods, and yeah, and it makes us a reproach, and that's why our enemy can use these tactics, you know, right? It says, how then have you turned against me into a degenerate shoot, right? Which is basically like a plant, when it comes off, it shoots out these different leaves and comes out, sprouts out, right? Showing you that's dealing with culture, cultivating, right? Coming out, like the plant growing to be a stalk, right? From it says of a foreign and wild vine, alien to me. Like, well, it says KJV says, yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then art thus turned into a degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? Right? So going to that word noble, and this one
Strong's H8321. Sorek, and second entry, Soreka.
Yeah, Soreka. Choice species. See, the Lord put us as the choice species. There's all different species, but the Lord said that you as the Israelites, you're the choice. You're the one that's supposed to be above all the other species, all above all nations. Choice species of vines, right? Choice grapes, right? The Lord said he's gonna take one cluster of the grape and save it unto him, right? And cast the rest of them, away to be destroyed, right? Dealing with the elect, but that still is that nation, still the nation of Israel at the end of the day, right? Choice vine, noble vine, right? This is Deuteronomy 28:54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother, right? And these are things through this crack epidemic, and before that was heroin, right? And separation, between the woman, the man from his children, right? And these are all what curses, because it says what? And towards the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. So that's when you have what? These single mother households, right? And these are basically the curses, you know what I mean? So now there's division within us, like she was saying, divide and conquer, basically. And that's how they did it. And they use you to destroy you. And we're waiting on you to be destroyed. Right? You know? Yeah, right? Yeah. Right here it says the wife he cherished, and towards the rest of his children, which who remains cruel, hostile towards his brother, and towards the wife he cherished, and towards the rest of his children who remain, right? And those are things that happen through the curses, man. Right? But this is how the psychological terror came through, right? It says so that he will not give to any of them of his flesh, them of the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat, because he have nothing left in the siege. Right? Let's try this one. So that he will not give even one of them any of the flesh of his children, which he will eat, because he has nothing else left during the siege and the misery by which your enemy will oppress you in all your cities, right? Yep. And it says have nothing left in him in the siege and in straightness, right? Difficultness, wherewith thy enmities, right, which is enemy, enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates, right? Yeah, so that's where, you having all these different things, hard to get jobs, this, that, all these different things, child support, things, they just start systematically using the system against you, right? Because they know you're not in the home. They know you're not with the truth, because she's on so-called Section 8 cash assistance. So now they hit you. So then they throw you in. And now the woman's destroyed, the children destroyed, and now also the man is destroyed through the entire system. And they allowed you to do it to yourself. Right? So it says the tender and delicate woman, among you, which would not adventure to set the soles of her feet upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil towards her husband, right? It says 85% of black women hate black men. So their eyes are evil towards their husband, towards their men. And no other men wants them. Only one that actually loves you and care about you is other black men. Now, if you're very pretty and you're a black woman and a white man's dating you, is it because he actually likes you, or because you're pretty? And not to mention, it's almost like this badge of like, look what I can do as a white man. You mean, do you really care about you? Do you really care about black people? Do you care about your people? Right? Because you don't even care about your people, right? But if you don't care, someone will care. How do you continue, right? How do you continue to cultivate and be a people? So you're just worried about you, but you're gonna dilute your seed in who you are to bring forth an Edomite baby. So that has nothing to do with you and your people and where you came from. Because without those people where you came from, there is no you. Right? So that trophy of a so-called white man that you feel so great that you have, because you got this Edomite, once you have his seed, that's the end of you. Right? Right? You will never be you. You're of course your people have to come through your people, right? Through that seed, or you don't exist. Right? So I shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom, and towards the son, and towards her son, and towards her daughter. Right? Right? So let's look up that, because this what ends up happening by giving these women liberty, right? Because that's basically what Esau did. He gave the so-called black woman liberty, and it's a venture, right? And see,
Strong's age 5254. Nasa.
Nasa, right? To venture, to test. So, and if you think about everything a woman's always doing, she's always trying to test you. Try, provoke, uh, tempt, as Shay, put to the proof or test, right?
Prove.
Yeah, prove. Okay, prove, tempt.
Assay.
Assay. Yeah, assay, test, true, attempt, prove. Right. Matter of fact, let's look up the actual definition of a venture. Right. Yeah. So let's just go to actual. Just the regular definition. Adventure says adventure is an exciting, unusual, or risky experience, activity, or journey. Right. So when you think of it says that the woman would not put the soles of her feet upon the ground for tenderness. Now a woman looks for the so-called bad boy, right? She wants a risky adventure, right? She's not truly looking for a man to settle down and have a family and this and that. She's looking just for an adventure, right? She's looking to test you on every whim she can test you to see if she can get the upper hand, right? Going back into the Garden of Eden, because Eve basically wanted to see if she could be the authority, right? So a woman's always going to test your authority, right? And in doing that, she's always looking for a more dangerous person, a more risky type of guy, right? The riskier, the better, right? Yeah, so this is Micah chapter 7, verse 10. It says, she that is my enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, thy power? My eyes shall behold her, and now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. See, and ultimately this is talking about what our women have became our enemies. Why? Because of the ability that he gave this woman to have this freedom that was never meant to be. That the man was always meant to be over her, especially as that man follow Hamashiach, follow Yahawashi, right? So now the order of the man being over the woman, and then the woman having the father to back up to raise the children the right way in the right order. Now everything is out of control, right? Because there's no direction, no true direction. Yeah, so this is Numbers chapter 30, verse 5, which proves that a woman is not to choose her own husband, right? You know, this is why you have such chaotic things going on within the male and female the nucleus, the family nucleus, right? Because women were able to put out their husbands, because in this society they allow a woman to take her vows, and then nothing is said, right? So I'm gonna prove it that a woman's not supposed to choose her own husband in the first place. But if her father, right, the daughter, the woman, her father is disapproval of her making her vow, so she's making a vow, like even choosing a man, getting married, right? Those things. You make a vow when you get married, right? Right? You make vows when you get married. It says on the day that he hear about it, none of her vows or her pledges by which she had bound herself shall stand, right? So that's pretty much why they tell you, do anyone have an objection, when someone's getting married? That's because someone is supposed to have a father, right, is supposed to be able to disannul her vow by which she vowed if he's displeased with it, right? You people go through a lot of different things and not know where they come from, right? You don't know that all that is scriptural, right? The whole point that the father is supposed to give away the daughter is because the father is technically supposed to choose the man by which his daughter is to be married with. You know what I mean? So that's why the father walks her down the aisle, because he chose that man. So then he's not going to disannul, right, what he chose, because he know that was the best thing for his daughter, right? See, you people don't know what the hell is going on, right? You think you could just do whatever you want to do. But that's not how the Lord set it up, right? We went over the order, right? The head of every man is Hamashiach. The head of the woman is the man, right? And the head of Hamashiach is Yahawah, man. So there's no dysfunction in that, right? So yeah. So her order, none of her vows or pledges by which she had bound herself shall stand, and Yahawah, BaHaSham Yahawashi, will forgive her because her father has disapproved of her making the vow, right? That's why I'm saying, when they go to get married, they tell you that. Anyone have any objection? Anyone have any disapproval of these two getting married? Right? And that's actually initially a setup for the father to say, I disannul the vows that happen here. Right? Right? Or, right? Says, but if she is married, right? So she's married, or she have a husband, while under her vows, or if she has bound herself by rash statements, light that up, her husband hears of it and says nothing about it on that day he hear it, then her vows shall stand, and her pledge by which she bound herself shall stand. So the basically, once she get married, the husband has the power that the father had, and he has the power to either, when he hears something and say, nah, we don't agree with that, nah, she ain't making no such vow, then it will stand and the Lord will forgive. Same thing with the husband. If he hears it and then don't say nothing, then it applies, right? But he has the same power as the husband, as the father. So he can either choose to say, nope, I don't agree with it, or he could choose to not say nothing, and then it applies. Then she has to live up to that vow. Oh, well, I might as well just go in and read that. But if her husband disapproves of her making her vows or pledge on the day that he hears of it, then he shall annul her vows which she is under, and the rash statement of her lips by which she bound herself, and Yahawah will forgive her. See? and then the Lord will wipe it away. Not because she said forgive, because the man, either the father or the husband, right, gave that decree saying that they either agree or they disagree, right? Because a woman's not supposed to choose her own husband. That's making vows, like marriage vows, or even being a pastor. Those are things that are making vows, right? Because you're making a vow to the Father. You're making a testimony. In order to make a testimony, you have to have testicles, right? When we're saying that a woman should not teach, suffer not a woman to teach, it's for good reason, right? Because when you go right here, it says Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 4 says, when thou vowest a vow unto the power of the Most High, Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, right? It says, defer not to pay it, right? You got to pay it after you made that vow, right? And then when you're stepping to the podium, you're making a vow that you're going to serve the Lord, right? Unto the death, unto death. This ain't because everything's good, it's cushy, it's this. You have to, you're vowing to the Most High that you're here to serve him unto death. If you got to die, you're not going to waver, you're not going to move. You're always going to serve Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi. And then he showed you examples throughout the scriptures of men that did such things, right? So he's not adding, when you vow, that's it. It's a wrap, right? So that's why a woman can't get up there and make a vow as far as being a pastor or a priest or a preacher, right? A prophet, basically. That's what a preacher means. Preacher just means prophet, right? Right? Because that's why it says, how can they accept there be a preacher, a prophet, right? Right? And a woman can't be a prophet, right? And nor should a woman choose her own husband, right? You know? Because you're making a vow that you don't understand. For he have no pleasure in fools. See? So the Lord ain't going to have any pleasure in his foolishness, right? Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow, right? And this is just the Lord talking to a man at this point. Let alone a woman ain't supposed to have nothing to do with it. But you think you could go up there and think you're supposed to pay a vow, and you think you're going to pay a vow, and then a woman is like a woman's like a fair weather friend. As long as everything's good, she's good. But when it gets bad, she's not. Well, that's not how this works, right? That's why the Lord had the Apostle Paul say through in season and out of season, right? It's not a fair weather friend, right? You're a friend. You give up your life for a friend, which is your brother, right? It says what was that? Oh, thou shouldest not vow, then that thou shouldest vow and not paid. Well, let's go again. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not paid. Woo! Wait, let's say it again. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow. It's better that you didn't make a vow at all, right? Then that thus shouldest vow, then you go make the vow and then not pay. Man, come on now. Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin, right? You don't got time for that. Fair weather friends and all this other stuff. Neither say thou before an angel that it was in error, right? Oh, I said something, but it was an error. you know, I didn't mean to do that. I know I made this vow and I promised, Lord, and I this and that. But you know what? It was under the conditions that everything was good, and I thought I can assert authority over men, and I could do my own thing, and I could choose my own husband, and I could do all these different things out of the ordinance of what you have. Well, let's see. If we do things out of the ordinance of the Lord, and then you just, it's just an error. It's an error. I messed up. Wherefore should the power of the Most High Yahawah, BaHaSham Yahawashi, be angry at thy voice and destroy the works of thy hands, right? And destroy everything about you, bro. Right? Or woman, right? It was just for the man. That's why I said it's supposed to be for the man, destroy everything about that man. But if you're trying to be in that lot as of a man, and you're not a man and you're a woman, destroy everything about you, sister. You should not put yourself in a position like that, man. This is not a game, right? When the Lord gets angry, it's not a game, man. It's not a game at all. Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, chapter 7, verse 23. Hast thou children, right? You got children, right? Instruct them, right? Every child needs instructions, man. They need discipline, right? And bow down their neck from their youth, right? When they're really, you need to do it before they even to their youth. You need to do it when they're young, throughout their whole life, right? You show them, especially in this society, right? When you got, where, at any time, you're in the valley of the shadow of death. Let's just say it that way, right? Anything could happen to you here in Babylon the Great, right? It says, has thou daughters? So not only do you have child, you need to teach your son, to agree with the adversary quickly. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to, do so much so that they throw you in prison, right? And then you have to answer to the judge. You don't want to do too much, right? But then when you got daughters, has thou daughters? Question mark. Have a care for their bodies. Do you got care for their bodies? And show not cheerful. Show not thyself cheerful towards them, right? Right? Don't be playful and smile. You know what I mean? Because then when it comes to women, they always looking for an advantage, even when they're young, right? I tell you that a woman's mind is full of snares and traps, right? Even when they're young, that's a young woman's mentality. Her mind is full of snares and traps, right? They don't have to be taught this. This is just it's within their nature. You don't have to be taught that. So don't show yourself cheerful towards her. Smile, joke, and play games and things like that. Nah, she's gonna try to take advantage, right? It says, marry thy daughter, and so shall thus have performed a weighty matter, right? Because that way your daughter's not a thought, right? She's not the neighborhood hood rat, right? She ain't community property, so to speak, right? Where everybody's had their way with her, right? Right now she could be honorable, right? And then it's the guy you choose, right? The father has chose the man, right? The woman is not set up or designed to choose her husband. It's her father that's supposed to choose him. That's why the father can rebuke or disannul a vow that she says. Same thing if when she's married, the husband has that ability too, showing you that the woman don't have authority, right? That's why the head of every woman is the man, right? And just as us, we don't have any true authority. That's why we come in the name of Yahawashi. That's why we say Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi. In the name of Yahawashi, we beseech you, we beg of you, you plead of you, we asking you, right? Not we coming on our own. We got to go through Yahawashi. So there's an order, right? That's how it works. And it says, marry thy daughter, so thus shall have performed a weighty matter. Right? Well, matter of fact, it reminds me of what is it? Leviticus, I think it's 19. It says, make not thy daughters whores, prostitutes, or the land will be filled with wickedness. Well, look what happened. All these holes and all these thoughts that's all around, and look at the land is filled with wickedness, man. Right? It says, give her to a man of understanding. Is that a man of who understands how to do a open brain surgery or open heart surgery? No. Is that a man who knows how to cook crack and break it down? See, because that's the type of men that women want. You're looking for these men that's doctors or street pharmacists, right? Ones that make all the money, right? Baseball players, football players, right? Bo know this, Bo know that, but Bo don't know jack if Bo don't know prophecy, man. Right? His Bo don't know nothing if he don't know prophecy, right? But that's why it's saying a man of understanding, right? Because of a man of understanding, if he hears his wife make a vow, or even his daughter, right? He can disannul a vow that she ought not have taken, right? Something that'll get her in trouble, right? Like a career, or what they call a career, like being a judge, or maybe even a police officer. They make a oath to the United States, right? To the government, and they make an oath, pretty much, or vow, saying that they will execute the position to the best of their ability. But then this place is corrupt. America is corrupt. They arrest people falsely all the time. They falsely accuse people all the time, right? You know what I mean? Not to mention this thing is set up by your enemy, right? So a lot of these policies are set up to go against your own brother, against your own people, right? Right? When you're doing that, what the scripture says, that you're not supposed to have you're not supposed to set up a king over you that's not of your brethren. So when you're making these oaths, you're saying that you swear by the Constitution that you would uphold the Constitution in those positions, right? So that quickly makes you an enemy of Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, right? So you have to have a father or a husband enough to know for you not to make those type of oaths, right? And there's other different things, can't think of an example now, but a woman may vow that she would be, I don't know, some type of, I don't know, like a guardian over all sorts of people and this and that, and the husband like, no. You take care of who you could take care of. You know what I'm saying? You can't make a vow to do this and that and go beyond your means. And then what if you don't keep the vow? Yeah, especially trying to be. Oh yeah, even you're trying to be a women trying to be pastors. That's a vow. The Lord said the Lord would be angry, man. That's unto death, man. You can't. You know what I'm saying? You can't just go up there and do some craziness, man. Right? That's why it's set up, right? That way, man. Because this is a serious thing to be to hold a vow, right? A vow is unto death, right? trying to think of some more stuff. But yeah, basically, you know, that's why, you know, oh, that's what I want to say, you know, because not to mention you letting the government say what husband can come in there or not, when you're supposed to say the Lord, right? Because it's a man of understanding, right? To give you to a man of understanding. So you have to understand that the Lord chose that man through your father, because your father was just a vessel. He was just a vessel by means of a way for the Lord to choose the husband that's meant for you, right? Not so you could do whatever you want to do and choose the man that you choose, and now every man's a dog, and every man's a pig, and every man is nothing and good for nothing. And especially the so-called black man, when he's the only one who loves you, he's the only one who cares for you, man. He's the only one that thinks you're the most beautiful woman in the world, while the rest of the world says you're ugly, you stink, you're loud, you're obnoxious, right? Yeah, they bite off you. Yeah, they want to get your full lips. They want your hips, your butt, your thighs, but they don't want nothing to be nothing like you, right? Because it's true. No man really want to be with you either, because it says a woman should be a silent and loving woman is a joy of a man, right? Right? It brings some peace. It fattens the bones, right? A loud blah, 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 that doesn't do it, right? I don't know who told y'all that was cute, but it's not. No one likes that, right? So with all that, I want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, BaHaSham, Rawchaa QaDash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold, Shalom. To you sisters, you Akhwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence, and the Baba Ball and Kwame Asherallah.